Greetings, welcome to Kadiga the Peer Review Science channel. So today we're going to be discussing anti-Black racism in China. Sorry, let me get this together here. All right, so on social media, we have uh, Chinese people um, doing racist things. They've been doing this for a very long time, especially showing anti-Black sentiment. Not everyone, but majority, and especially in China, there is anti-Black sentiment. And in being a historian and being that I have studied Chinese history from the inception of its ancient to its modern uh, sociological folkways from both periods, and also secondary peer review sources. So today we're going to look at secondary peer review sources by Chinese political scientists who are writing about these anti-Black issues, which is nothing new because this paper I'm showing you is peer reviewed. As we see here. Okay, so I'm going to get myself off the screen. All right. So as we see here, anti-Black racism in post-Mayo China. This is submitted by political scientist Barry Sautman, and it says the China Quarterly, and this is peer-reviewed, and this was published in 1994. Now, I could have went to any of these peer-reviewed journal publications here. This was also 1994, and you had anti-African protests that was being demonstrated all the way in the 80s by Chinese people who was protesting against Black people in general. And then this peer-reviewed paper is in September 2011. Now, this states that from campus racism to cyber racism. So these Chinese intellectuals brought their racism from the campus to the cyber world, and this is what we are seeing here. And this is why I tell people to pay attention to peer review data. Peer review data is very important, especially ethnographic research, cultural anthropological studies, where we have researchers going inside these populations in real time, and they are allowing us to take and observe what they are going through. So it's always good for Blacks to keep up and date with the peer review data, because in these situations you will not be shocked or surprised, and it will better prepare you into how to deal with these people who are anti-Black, and even to a point if we have to defend ourselves. Now it says here, okay, so I'm gonna shift from here. So I could have chose any of these. These are timely. And it says race and revolution, Blackness in China's long 20th century. I mean, scholars have been writing on the racism in China, and now they may, the Chinese have like this racist doll that's going around called a stress relief doll that they put in an image of a Black person. As a historian, doesn't surprise me at all. I mean, as we about to look at, some situations that happened in the past. Okay. Now, in this research, we can just we can just go here. This article will examine the Chinese African student clashes of the first decade of China's reform and suggests some explanations for them. So he gives explanations, and I'm gonna just be quite frank with you. This political scientists say the explanations is strictly, they are just racist and racist behavior that developed from the Chinese lower class. So yes, these people are majority are racist, and as I evaluated, and some of these people actually haven't interacted or been around black people, even though they are touted to have this highly technological advanced society, but yet you are still racist in 2026 is absolutely ridiculous. But let's go here. This is the Shanghai incident. I'm going to bring this up in particular because this incident is over, let's say, 2020. This is almost 50 years. So anti-black sentiment in China it's just nothing new, and most historians will tell you that scholars have written upon this, and just our people are not interested, especially blacks. It seems like we're more interested in the entertainment world and not the real world and what's going on. There can be reasons why, but I'm not sure. Not all of us, most of us, have to pay attention to these studies. This study was in 1994, warning people of the anti-black sentiment that the Chinese government has. The Chinese government didn't even issue no type of response that I know of, and if so, you can share the response and I evaluate it. Now, the Shanghai incident is this is the incident that I looked at that's documented, and it says this was one of the first major classes. So before this incident, when they say the first major class, I'm looking at it historically, like, well, there have been other clashes with uh, anti-black sentiment, Chinese individuals against black people. And let's go ahead and read some of this. It says the Shanghai incident began on July 3rd during an examination period. Chinese students complained of loud music played by Africans at night and referred to them during a confrontation as black devils. If I'm pronouncing this right, he gu. So because they played loud music at night, which I mean, this one I'm gonna tell you about Chinese people. I adopted the way they regard education. Okay. And they don't play about that. They highly disciplined. These guys be getting high grades. I have a high grade myself, a GPA I have an above average college GPA. And for me to get that GPA, I have to sacrifice a lot. I have to sacrifice listening to music. I have to sacrifice being totally focused on my goal 24 hours out of a day, being disciplined to reach my goal. And that's how I received honors twice. I received the Dean List honors twice for my bachelor's degree. And then from there, so I understand, but that don't mean me to be racist towards a whole group of people. And if that is a reason, that is silly. All people play music. I didn't live next to Europeans and they played rock music. I didn't live next to Indians, Hindus, and they was playing some Hindu stuff that, I know nothing about. But I mean, just because someone playing loud music doesn't give you a right to group a whole people as or to be anti-black. And let's continue to read. It say in the ensuing scuffle, a Chinese attempting to mediate was stabbed and injuries were incurred on both sides. So there was a physical scuffle. It says the next morning, Africans were stoned and the foreign student hall of residence besieged by Chinese hurling bricks. African students called the police, but officers did not arrive for several hours and failed to intervene as fighting continued throughout the day. Yemeni students who came to the institute to assist the Africans were attacked by Chinese using iron bars. So Herbs was trying to help the Africans, the Yemeni students, like, yo, what are y'all doing? And Chinese people had iron bars. They was ready to rumble for this incident. Now it says there were several serious injuries, and an ambulance that arrived at 5 p.m. to pick up injured Africans was overturned by Chinese students. Wow. On the evening of July 4th, a Malian was beaten when he emerged from the hall of residence, deemed too light by his attackers. He was doused with ink. The siege continued into the small hours of the morning when the authorities ordered the hall evacuated. The evacuees, mostly, if I'm pronouncing that right, mostly Africans, were attacked as they left, and their possessions were destroyed as police stood by. 16 foreign students were hospitalized, but as many as 50 foreigners and 24 Chinese may have been injured. Chinese students finally dispersed after a broadcast appeal by Vice Premier Fang Yi. The foreign students who called a strike and complained of police brutality and incitement were sequestered in a hotel outside the city. Most initially sought repatriation. Once Mauritanian was in fact deported after being accused of raping a Chinese woman, charges which other Africans disputed. So, man, this is, they're going through all type of stuff during this time period, right? And it's ridiculous, right? So it says 2 weeks after the incident, 100 Africans demonstrated in Beijing's diplomatic quarter. They called upon African countries to stop sending students to China and noted that there had also been anti-African demonstrations in Xinjiang and Guangzhou. All right, so these anti-African and Black sentiments. So here's other incidents that happened in China historically that has been historically written down, etc. So let's go to a section of this excellent report here. All right, so you have anti-African incidents in 1988 and 89. So these incidents are not on a level of course, colonial European, how their views of blacks was incorporated in their law system, but yet these are still anti-Black sentiments. Now, Africa reacted, and let's continue down. I just want to get in a nutshell of this non-racial explanations for Chinese anti-Africanism. So they have excuses to why they are racist. They have a lot of excuses. When I read this, I was like, well, they do that today. They give excuses and things of this nature. Remember, Chinese people are touted as some of the brightest and smartest in the world when it comes to STEM and certain things of that nature, but yet they can't comprehend and get past their history of peasantry, of looking at peasants. So they consider blacks for some reason as peasants, So according to them, blacks are peasants. Now let's continue. And it's again not all Chinese people like this. Some Chinese people I met are definitely not like this, but Chinese people I met definitely said that their family are still racist. They have racist family even in America, man. This is, and we are the ones that are and I have a Kadika OER where I show the power of Black people. Black people weakness that we are not unified, and two, we have just too many ideological frameworks that we are adopting from foreign languages, foreign countries, foreign identities, and we're making up identities, etc. So that lead to more identity confusion. And number three, problematic issues is in education with my people and knowing the history of these people who come into our communities, and then they would want us to buy from them, right? So they want us to buy from them that, and when we buy from them, they send our money to China to again a anti-black communist government. Is insane. But anyway, us getting into the knowledge of who these people really are historically, looking at them in an ancient manner, and looking at them and how their ancient civilizations and what they went through, their sociological folkways, and how it developed and who they are today should be studied, and we should take it serious. We don't prioritize those who are educated over here. We prioritize those who are entertainers. And then when Chinese people show that anti-black sentiment or any other racial group, we act shocked. You know, when I studied cultural anthropology, we know that in cultural anthropology research that every group of people is ethnocentric to a degree. And if you know that, then you will be prepared and not deal with people who is anti-black. Remember, the black dollar is powerful than a military. Our money as black people are powerful. As long as we continue to support, as long as we have ideological difference that do not unite, that where we can't unite. See, if one group of blacks say, "Oh, I want to do a boycott because they treating my people wrong," and then you'll have another who don't consider himself black. He consider himself Asian, or he may consider himself one of these pseudo religious ideological frameworks. Now you have a divide. Unity is broken from foreign ideological frameworks that this specific black have adopted. And I'm talking about triangular blacks, all of us. You got some that think they Hebrew Israelites, dude. You got some who think they Moors. You got blacks who think they extraterrestrial beings. You got blacks who say I'm not black, I'm brown. You got blacks that say I'm not that, I'm Asian, I'm Aztec. You got so many blacks due to our history here, and we lost our identity, and we have a major identity crisis. It is very hard for us to unite in one common goal, right? So from those problems, I see as a historian, it's just problematic for us on both ends, right? Where we can't even defend ourselves because of the vast ideological differences that we have. So if one group want to do a boycott, we can't even boycott because you're going to have others that say, I don't care, blah, 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 and they're going to go into the store and continue to support. So as long as we are undisciplined with our unity, they're going to continue to do. So what happened today is not a shock to me, a historian. I'm not shocked at their behavior. A lot of these countries have that behavior of anti-black skin. They do it to themselves. If you look at how they treat their peasant culture, or how they treat the darker Chinese people, you will see how they will treat you, or treat us. Is already written inside of their sociological, how they are built, their folkways, right? So it says the racial explanation. This is interesting. When I read this, I was like, Now it says during and after the Nanjing events, some commentators argued that anti-black prejudice provided the impetus for Chinese African student conflicts. So most of the conflicts were racial, right? I don't want to hear nobody saying it. This is according to peer-reviewed data, and this is what my channel was based from, peer-reviewed data. So majority of these conflicts were racially based in China. Now it says historical and contemporary evidence that Chinese intellectuals have held notions of black inferiority supports the view that racial animosity was the main element. So, they think that blacks are inferior. See that? Are inferior to them. They think that we are inferior. I didn't say that. Peer-reviewed data stated this, and and it's unfortunate that they are like this, and yet they are touted as some type of technological powerhouse, right? They are touted like that as a ideological powerhouse, but yet they can't understand cultural anthropological diversity. They can't understand anthropological diversity of people. That gets me, right? Strange. So it says anti-black bias can in turn be seen in the context of recrudescence of elitist values that link and denigrate those who are dark and those who are poor. You see that? Historic. This is their culture that developed from these things that we see today. And yes, they are racist. Not they think that dark skin. Period. This comes from whether you're a Black American, triangular flag, if you're so-called dark skinned Hindu, you're a dark. If you have dark skin, right? If you have dark skin, to them you are inferior, which is weird coming from where we are saying that these people are highly technological, right? Or whatever. It says traditional Chinese culture idealized fair skin. And this is where I, when I studied their culture in college, I looked at that. I was like, well, they really love their skin color. They prioritize fair skin, right? And we're going to read this. It says traditional Chinese culture idealized fair skin and among elites, at least, associated with intellectual endeavor. And I don't mean to laugh, I'm unbiased and learning other people's culture, but wow. And I'm laughing because, again, China is held as some type of technological, intellectual, communist country, yet they can't comprehend. They still have these barbaric and primitive pseudoscientific views of skin color. Absolutely insane. Now it says the most attractive man was a white-faced scholar by man Shuxing, whose freedom from manual labor at once implied a high status, potentially leisure life, and light complexion. Fair skin continues to be a standard of female beauty. Right? Many urban Chinese women take pains to avoid the sun, and some use whitening creams. This is back. This is now. I told you I showed this peer review for a reason, because we're going to get into some empirical primary materials. As a historian, y'all know I'm heavy on empirical data and I'm heavy on primary materials. That is what we historians do, right? We evaluate the primary materials with an unbiased mind instead of giving anything that's remotely close to what a Whig interpretation is. Now it says Chinese, in common with other languages, associates blackness with negative qualities. You see that? I didn't say that. All right. Peer reviewed data said this here. Okay. Negative qualities. They even have Chinese terms for these qualities. Again, being that our people, a lot of our people here, and we are, as blacks in this country, we are 7 sectors. We are behind in 7 very important sectors of education. We are the lowest of all groups. So a lot of our people may not even know this information because of lack of education. And as a historian, it's my job to have some type of public relations with the public, and not only just the black public, but all races, all ethnicities in America should know about this, right? In Africa, in any other country where my people are living at. Now let's continue here. Now it says Chinese, in common with other languages, associates blackness with negative qualities, as in Hixin, black-hearted, hidden, black person, but also one who lacks a residency permit. Hishi, black market. Hishishu, gangster organization. Hihu, bandit, argot. Urban Chinese have long associated the dark complexions of manual laborers, particularly peasants, with low economic and cultural status. Y'all get this? So, as a historian, when I seen those people, they do a lot of racist thing on TikTok, and they do a lot of racist stuff, and they act very immature and things of that nature, very non-educated, right? We see the historical development. It's all within their language. It's all within their history. And they act like this because a lot of them don't even have interactions with Black people to even know about us. They study us, but don't really interact. And we're going to see empirical data where, as the Black man is walking in China, we see the Chinese people looking at him like he's an alien from another planet. I swear. You had people just looking, laughing, looking like, and some were looking confused, like, what is that? Is that a human being? He has black skin. And that shows me that majority of these communist countries, especially as China, are very lack education. So it's a myth that these Chinese people are so smart and intelligent and all of this, but yet they can't comprehend basic humanities. And I know they have studied humanities, right? They have studied humanities. Stop it. I know they have studied humanities. I have peer-reviewed data where they are studying about diverse. I have Chinese scholars who have published about African culture, right? So this is like this peer-reviewed data said, is just out blatant severe case of ethnocentric behavior here. All right. It says racial stereotyping in China has a long history, ably documented in recent studies by Frank Dakota. When the Western intrusion began in the mid-19th century, Chinese writers propagated racial typifications that treated all foreigners as inferior. The image of blacks, however, was distinctly worse than other groups. So to Chinese people, I don't want them to, they're going to come here and try to defend and say, oh, well, our culture was like that with all people. Yes, but not to this caliber. You don't see Chinese people making dolls of Russians. When have you seen them make a Russian doll of stress relief to crush that Russian doll? Do you see that? Do you see them showing them crushing European dolls, right, in stress relief? Even though the stress reliefs don't have other shades, the majority of shades that are shown are black skinned. So this is historical. We are talking about historical case of anti-racism in China that have been talked about for decades. It's just that black people, a majority here, are uneducated in the histories. We don't care about the histories. That's very important. The histories are important. The humanities are important. We should know what we are dealing with and whom we are dealing with, who we give our money to and whom not we give our money to, right? Now it says at the turn of the century, now let's continue here. It says all foreigners as inferior. They consider all foreigners as inferior, but the image of blacks, however, was distinctly worse than any other group. Africans were portrayed as supine natural slaves from the most backward of continents. At the turn of the century, leading reformist intellectuals, including Liang Kushao and King Yue, adopted a scientific racism influenced by Western views. You see this? So I've seen in the comments where someone said, we don't act like we didn't get our views from Europeans. They consider FBA, of course, I'm definitely just a black. I don't consider myself a FBA, but I am a black, and FBA are my brothers and sisters. If they consider themselves FBA, they are my brothers and sisters. Now, what I'm saying is that they try to attack the FBA brothers and sisters, and they try to say that the FBA brothers and sisters, Foundation of Black Americans, was assimilated and learned everything they knew and became a creation of European ideology. But yet, as a historian, I said, wow, that's unfair, because I thought that in peer-reviewed data, as we see here, it says that Chinese people adopted Western views on racism. So let's look it up here. It says, at the turn of the century, leading reformists, right? I read that. And it says they adopted. So the new China that we see up to date now, according to this peer-reviewed data, which hence is my channel is based, adopted a scientific racism influenced by Western views. I'm gonna let that sink in for y'all for a second. All right, just a second. Think about that. Let's continue. In their racial hierarchy, the white and yellow races were opposed to darker races doomed to extinction by hereditary inadequacies. You listen? In their racial hierarchy, the white and yellow races were opposed to darker races, doomed to extinction by hereditary inadequacies. Blacks, this is China. Blacks were seen as lazy, stupid, incapable of progress. In contrast, some whites were considered natural-born rulers. The reformers expressed alarm at the supposedly higher sexual drives of blacks, which Lying cited as underlying and justifying the lynching of African Americans. So you had Chinese scholars writing that it supported the lynching during the Jim Crow era and a little bit pre-Jim Crow, and also post, when we were being hung, killed, and lynched just for being black. And they agreed with that. This is the same China who's making these dolls. As a historian, I have to show y'all the truth. It may be ugly, and y'all may don't even care. Most likely, blacks over here have so many different ideologies, it doesn't even really care over here, really, like that. It's sad to say that. We are glued to pseudoscientific ideologies, quasi-religious ideologies. We think we are everything else, but with our natural language is already set for us that who we are. Most blacks already identified themselves as such in their natural languages already. See, so this is what they think. And I'm not going to say all, but we're going to call a spade, man. You know, when I seen the anti-black sentiment, it just doesn't shock me. As a historian, we have to be very careful who we spend our money with. You know, you got to make it make sense. Now it says King advocated the eradication of darker races. Now this is another Chinese. this is from Lying, and then you have Kang Yue. Kang Yue advocated the eradication of darker races through a dietary change, migration, sterilization, and intermarriage. He feared, however, that the last of these methods will run into difficulties because of the natural repugnance of whites and Asians to inferior blacks. All right, this is peer-reviewed data documenting this stuff. Okay, and he's reviewing literature from past Chinese so-called scholars and how they view us. Now it says, let's continue. Prominent intellectuals in Republican China also disseminated notions of black intellectual and aesthetic inferiority while assimilating blacks with subordinate classes in China. So they did the same thing the Europeans did. So when you have pseudo historians, these guys are not even historians on Facebook, telling black people, "Oh, go to China and get educated." What? What are you talking about? They view you over there, as worse probably as how we're viewed over here. At least over here, we have an opportunity to progress to a certain point. It says prominent intellectuals in Republican China also disseminated notions of black intellectual and aesthetic inferiority while assimilating blacks with subordinate classes in China. One anthropologist whose works were widely distributed in the 1920s described blacks as small-brained racial inferiors who were only as civilized as stupid peasants, Yunong, in China. So they compared us to peasants. That our class is compared with their peasant class. I didn't say that. This is peer-reviewed data. Now it says advocates of eugenics transfer the idea of a biological hierarchy to classes. Intellectuals were the primary elements of a race. Intellectual and moral incompetence were found at the lower levels. Wow. Now it says the communist ascension to power in 1949 produced a break with racial hierarchies. Did it? We're gonna continue reading here. Watch this. All right. I can't, read the whole thing for you. I would like y'all to read it yourselves to get educated on when we are dealing with various different groups. Know that history first, or could consult me. I am a historian, and this is my job. All right. Now it says, let's see here. Now remember, this is after this is post Mao. So this is after the revolutionary change into a communist country. Listen to this. It says, let's see. Oh man, I still have to read all of this to y'all. Okay, so all of this is important. Now it says relative perceptions of attractiveness provide another important indicator of the status accorded racial and social groups. Racial ideology in particular has long counterposed the beauty of one group to the ugliness of the other. The questions on attractiveness allow respondents to pick among generally good looking, better than average, not good looking, and generally ugly. All groups surveyed rated Africans as the least attractive of the listed foreign peoples. All but one group placed them between not good looking and generally ugly. Most groups put Western Europeans, Americans, Japanese, and Southeast Asians in the top 4 positions, generally in that order, with Arabs or Indians in the 5th and 6th places. That whites were considered more attractive than fellow Asians should not surprise anyone who has seen a Chinese woman student's dormitory decorated with magazine cutouts of white women, or witnessed the delight displayed by Chinese at the parents of white children. Chinese and whites have in fact been shown to have the same notions of attractiveness with regard to whites. Intellectuals generally considered the most attractive of the 3 social groups. All groups rated peasants as the least attractive, placing them between average looks and not good looking, and with most ratings closer to the latter category. All groups scored Africans worse than peasants on attractiveness. And not to be, I'm going to keep it to myself. Now it says about half the high school pupil commentators describe Africans in purely negative terms. That is, as primitive, unclean, backward, and honest, but simple-minded. An equal number were marginally more positive. Africans were termed hardworking and honest, but lacking the capacity to manage their own countries. Ugly, but not lacking in humor. Clever, but ignorant and prone to political instability. The inheritors of a rich culture and victimized by the colonial legacy, rapid population growth and diseases, but also slow at development. A few comments were wholly positive. Africans have a fighting spirit, are kind-hearted, generous, and honest, and arouse sympathy. All right, let's continue. Now, this is high school. This is from high school. If once y'all read this whole thing, you're going to be like, this is embedded in their cultural system. All right. It says high school pupils were scarcely more charitable in comments about peasants, writing that they are bumpkins, too. Pitiable, detestable, backward, ignorant, parochial, narrow-minded, parochial. I never seen this word before in my life. Let me see if I can get a pronunciation here. I want to know what that means. Okay, let's see. Yeah, I pronounced it right. Parochial. The word primarily means having a limited, narrow, or provincial outlook, or relating directly to a local church parish. Whoa, they have some descriptions of us, don't they? And this is high school. Wow. So that high school students, that's how that high school students feel. Now, this permeates all the way down, as we're going to see with empirical data, all the way down to the children. So the children are learning this behavior from somewhere. The children are learning this behavior from the parents, from the educational systems, from China itself. All right. So I don't need to read no more of this. I know they call us apes. All right. Now this is university students. So we're skipping past the high schoolers. We get into those who pose a no critical thinking, which shocked me. And this is when someone asked me why I don't view China as an intellectual powerhouse, because as a historian, it's just certain things. They all credit with doing excellent things. They have good and they have the bad. But to me, when you can't get over the hump of these things that will eventually hold you back, you are not much better than the same black ape that you are condemning. Now let's continue. It says the vast majority of university students. Now these are critical thinkers. Not to stop. When you're dealing with a university student, I don't care what place you're dealing with critical thinkers, even though there are levels. Now it says the vast majority of university student commentators were more vitriolic, right? Africans were said to be undisciplined, wild, ignorant, uninhibited, primitive. And I've seen this word primitive a lot. And when you look at China, and we're going to see some parts of China, and I'm like, these people are calling their people primitive? Like, you have a primitive, I'm not saying that they're primitive, but I mean, compared to, the United States, I mean, like, even black communities in the United States, this looks pretty primitive. I'm talking about the poorest communities in Baltimore City that are black look more advanced and you have blacks that have more advanced technology that know about more. So I'm confused. I see primitive a lot. Strange. So they view us as primitive, uncivilized, lazy, foolish, ugly. Of course, they think we're ugly, weak, rude, incapable, unless we're sports. They worship us in sports, but everything else they don't. Now it says incapable, backward, troublemakers, nuisances, not welcome. And we're going to look into this. Not welcome in empirical data next. And the least intelligent tribe of black apes. Jeez. And this is from their college. This is those who are of critical thinking who is going to take over the country next. These are university and college students who are prepared to run their government, their country, and rule China next. This is their ideas of black people, right? This is how they think of us, blacks, all right? Now it says they were held to lack the strength to resist suppression, to project a bad impression, and lack a capacity for progress. A few students remarked that Africans are honest, but also simple and backward. Unambiguously positive characterizations were strikingly absent. Most university students who commented on Chinese peasants also regarded them negatively as backward, ignorant, stupid, mean, foolish, etc. Right? All right. This is an amazing read. Please read this. Now we're gonna go into the conclusion. I showed this. I just want to let y'all know that history of anti-black and their anti-black sentiments is partly one in the development of their peasant class, because they view blacks as a peasant class for what they are seeing on the media. And every time you turn around, one of these European media strands are having at least 95% black people that commit crimes are on these news stations, which are seen around the world, right? Even though all people, ethnic groups commit crime. But the majority of these news stations are blacks committing the crime. Thus, for a lot of the news media, like me, for example, I graduated, got a Bachelor of Science, black man. I'm one of the few black men with a Bachelor's of Science, and I'm one of the few black men who's gone to an MA program in history and linguistics, right? Interdisciplinary research. Yet when we turn around, we see more gangsterisms than anything. When I was a gangster, getting in trouble, getting locked up, being incarcerated, everybody loved me, right? Everybody loved me. As soon as I started getting myself educated, going to college, writing peer-reviewed data, writing for peer-reviewed journals, preparing myself for theses and dissertation, my audience flee from me because people want to see the ignorance, right? People want to see the ignorance. I don't get promoted. And a lot of other blacks don't, even though you have a lot of good black people doing good, excellent things, scientists, etc. You have a lot of them, but the media don't cover that. They may cover it a little bit, but they don't cover that. So it says the racialized outlook of Chinese students and intellectuals evidenced by the survey support. So they doing ethnographic. When you see the survey, that's like cultural anthropological studies. That's what I learned because I did a cultural anthropological paper, which I had to do ethnographic research. Okay, so surveys are part of ethnographic methods. So it says, by the survey supports the inference that racism, see, racism. You can't blame. I seen the Chinese political scientists try to say that it's because of the humanities. No, Chinese. I heard Chinese people. If you look at their colleges, they have multiculturalism studies and humanities. Yes, they do. Blacks been coming to China since the 60s, as documented in peer-reviewed data. Yet in 2026, there's still excuses for anti-black sentiment. Man, this is problematic. It has to be eradicated. I'm sorry. Now it says the survey supports the inference that racism. So ethnographic research supports that racism, not xenophobia. Racism, not xenophobia, was the driving force behind clashes between Chinese and African students. All right? Racism worlds. So let's look into some empirical primary sources real quick. Y'all see this, right? So, I'm gonna be back. I'm gonna use the restroom, and I'm gonna give y'all time to get prepared for the second segment of this KPRSC. So we're gonna look at what we call, as a historian, we will call this primary material, because this is material that have been recorded at the event, right? And also it can be considered empirical because this is like our observation of this event in real time that's recorded. But mainly I will probably view this as primary material. It's primary material. So I will be right back. All right. So this is empirical data of a black man, Cameroonian, right? That is in China. It's called Black in China, but this brother here going to tell us how he feel as he's living in China, you see on his face that he's going through a lot. And I give him props for doing this ethnographic research, showing us how it is as we observe this data. Now let's see what he has to say here. And this is his personal experience that he's experiencing, and you can see as he's recording and showing how these Chinese people are acting towards him. So let's go here.
China is difficult and hostile for every black foreigner. Before I came to China, a lot of people warned me about.
No, y'all see this? This caught my attention quickly. One is his uncomfortability. He's brave. This is a brave black man. And for two, you can see his face. He's worried. It seems worried. But he's brave. He's on his mission. He's learning about these people. And look how these people are looking. Look at this one. Look at him in the blue. Look how he's looking. Either it could be quite a few things, and I'm not trying to think for the individual, and he's looking like, wow. And this shows me a lot as a historian. This shows me, one, that either they don't have a lot of interaction with blacks or Africans, etc. In their communities. Their diversity is not up to par for them to be such a technological, so-called advanced civilization, like how people are, well, mainly pseudo-historians are yelling. Now, it says, not say, but he, as you see, look at him. He looks as well. All of them. Right? They are looking like, who is this? What's going on? There's a black here? Right? We just read this in peer-reviewed data, the sentiments. And he had, let's go back to his words. This is what he says.
China is difficult and hostile for every black foreigner.
It's difficult and hostile. Now, with date, and I showed y'all that old peer review for a reason. The reason is I want to see that it hasn't been any change since the date of that writing. The date of that writing that we seen was in 1994. And as we see here, this is dated 2 months ago. This is in 2026. And they are still like that. He said they are hostile to every black. Not some black, not certain blacks. To, I guess, his experience, he's saying that they are hostile. And as he's recording, I'm seeing how they are looking. These people are giving negative faces, etc., etc. This is a complex fact issues that I see. I see miseducation. I see lack of cultural diversity. Education should be disseminated. It don't have to be college. It can be OER programs. Their college intellectuals can create OER programs like I'm doing to give knowledge, public knowledge freely to people who can't afford college, who are not as astute as I am, right? So we can know about a lot of different things. Look at this, man. This is, I just read a 1994 peer review paper and still the same thing 50 years later. Let's continue. Look at this.
China is difficult and hostile for every black foreigner. Before I came to China, a lot of people warned me about China.
Look, he's looking, he's on point. He's like, man, a lot of people may be looking out of curiosity, etc. So I really don't, I can't, speak for them people or look for them people, but from his experience, he's saying that they are difficult and very hostile to blacks. All blacks. They, that's what he's experiencing in his empirical data.
It's going to be difficult. They don't like black people. You will get stared. You will get hated just for your color, for being black.
He said you will be hated. You're feared. People are scared of you. And it seems like it's come from media-based outlets. We can go back to the peer review data where in the dangers of media. I mean, the media is they still do this stuff today. As a historian, it's so far gone. This system has to be like literally eradicated and destroyed and turned anew. And turned anew. It has to be turned anew, man. Right?
Black. But what actually happened was something that I never expected.
你这个黑，你太黑了。
我老家去非洲的。
So you got the children asking questions, asking them like, why are you so dark? You're so dark.
Expected.
你谁呀？
Who are you? You're so dark. That's the first thing. They didn't say, who are you? What's your name? Who are you? You're black. You're so dark. So this can be ethnocentric behavior that's natural, or this community probably never ever seen a black man. He probably never had interactions with blacks in this community, or it can be racism. You know what I mean? As we read the peer review data, racism is steeped in the government of China. It's steeped in it. Let's continue.
这个黑，你太黑了。
我老家去非洲的喀麦隆，对，非洲国，你们听说过非洲吗？哦，非洲的人吗？语言那个。啊，好，我。
So they told him to leave. He said, "Where you from?" So the other Chinese man right here, it looked like he's interested in the conversation, and then this Chinese man said, "Africa, you go, you leave right now." This is and we read this in the peer review data where blacks are not welcome in areas or in a lot of areas of China, right? Let's continue to another. So now let's go to this one, right? Now, this where he showed, looking at, he showed he was trying, because he speaks Chinese. He speaks excellent Chinese. Even Chinese people said this Cameroonian brother speaks excellent Chinese. And I'm so impressed. And I love the way he's representing blacks, and maybe his courage and also his intellectualism that he does have, his skill to show Chinese people that blacks are not stupid idiots, etc., or apes, or however. And he do a lot of historical corrections on here. I like this guy, man. He's brave, but at the same time, we have to be careful when we do ethnographic research in these areas, man, that we are not welcome at. You know what I mean? But despite all the racism that China had for blacks, I didn't see Chinese people whip black people. I didn't see black people whip black people for Chinese people. I'm like, we have to establish our unity. We have to establish our foundation of unity together first for us to be respected by these people. These people ain't going to respect us, man. It's not going to happen. It's already embedded very deeply. It's going to have to be the Chinese people themselves. The Chinese people is going to have to fight. The Chinese people are going to have to do that. It's going to have to be reforms from their own people. Chinese people have to speak up and give change to their government, right? And I doubt it's going to happen because they live in a communist country. They will be killed quickly. You see, so they may not even, speak out. But the only change this going to be, we can't keep asking this racist beast to change. We can't keep asking it. It's just we can't. We have to start focusing on our unity and the power we do have. We may not have the strongest military, but one thing all of these people do, they come to us for us to buy. Hurry up and buy. See, they want us to buy and get out. They want our money, but they don't want us. That means that they need something from us. And long as we have a need that they need, we the ones have the true power. We the ones have the power. They need our soil. They need to dig in our dirt. They need to dig in come to our African countries and dig in that dirt. They need those diamonds. They need those blood diamonds. They need the manufacturing sales that Africans give them. They see a big opportunity in Africa to entrench them in clothing, and they're looking at Africa to make them rich and powerful. Y'all don't see this? Again, maybe not, because again, YouTube is a place where it is entertainment first. So this brother, Black, again, he's about to get turned down from an apartment, a house. He's about to get turned down because he's Black in real time. Now, this is in 2026. We read a peer-reviewed paper in 1994. This is 2026. Watch this.
我要租房子，
要租房子，我这不租给你啊。
你们去哪位？
He's telling them, we won't rent it to you. The Black guy said, someone referred me here to get a house. And the Chinese man said, yeah, but we won't rent it to you. And this Black man, wealthy, man. This man got money. He's wealthy. He's pretty wealthy. He get millions of views. He get hundreds of thousands of views. He's on a higher level. I know that guy, and Africans can save. One thing about an African, man, they like squirrels. They know how to save their nuts. They save their nuts, man. I done met plenty wealthy Black Africans. They think we are poor is insane. They think that, especially Cameroonians, these guys know how to save. These guys got money. He never know. This interaction can enrich his apartment. He don't care. He's Black. You gotta leave. Let's continue.
我过来是原委会的啊，出去。
对，我先看房子，
没得看头哈。
You're not accepted. Look how they waving that hand. I'm noticing that they wave that hand because the other guy, don't hold your head down, brother. You okay, right? Now, you're actually helping thousands and millions of Blacks right now. Now here, it says it shows where she's like flicking her hand. He even flicked his hand. Now that gesture is also in another scene that he did in another video where the guy said, go, get away from here, leave now, right? Because of his Black skin. So they do this hand gesture, right, to tell you to go. So this guy was going to call the police if he wouldn't leave, right? Now, I'm not saying that we should be bagging on racists to look, I'm bagging on racists to please let me stay here. The racist like, you're not welcome. And he's still, no. I think this guy is showing us how they are. And this is highly educational for me because I'm going to put a paper together. I'm going to put peer review data together myself. But it's so much peer review data that already been written on this. It's just that we are not, that's hence why I made this channel. So we can show legitimate scientific scrutiny and recording and archival data. So let's look at here. So he said no one dares to rent you. Look at that. No one dares, in Chinese, no one dares to rent it to you.
好，没关系。但是我是不能看吗？我看可以看，是不是？
Look how he acting.
对吧？
Like he all like what is this, the ghetto? Like this look like our ghettos. And I'm not even gonna say ghetto. But I'm being honest. This looks like our apartment. This looks like the poorest part of Black community. Our middle class Black community in America is very much much more higher level than this. I'm just being honest. From the construction of the architecture to where we're living at, separate houses. This is like stacked on top of each other, like some project in McCullough Homes in Baltimore City. This looked like some area of like Lexington Terrace in Baltimore City, or Lafayette Projects when that was up. When that was up in Baltimore City, man. They act like this is some mansion, mini mansion, or something. And because he's Black, they don't want his money. They don't know this YouTuber here have a lot of money. So racism is just, it won't get you nowhere. And us as Blacks need to stop going to these people who don't want us, and we get our own thing. We do our own thing. Get your YouTube money and build apartment complexes, so we won't have to go to these people, man. And with online learning, we don't really need to deal with these people. We have online learning, education now. Things are different. No sympathy. They laughing. You got people laughing. Brutal, man.
不能住这里，但是我能不能看？
哪儿也不能去。
但是我能不能看嘛？
不能拍，不能拍。
我不是拍我拍你吗？我没有拍你，我记录我自己，不行吗？
我们照片都不能拍，
请出去哈，请出去。
哦，不要碰我嘛，不要碰我，不要碰我，
不要碰你，但是请出去哈。请出去。
这个是派出所打了招呼的。
好，请出去。
Yeah, he's pissed. You know when somebody get pissed, they start. My mother used to do that where they bite their lip, man. He's pissed, and I'm glad he acting with respect. This guy tried to touch him. He like, man, don't touch me. If you don't like Blackness, why are you touching me? Yeah, brother, get away from here.
这儿不能拍哈。
我没有拍你，这个是公共场合哈，这个是公共。
This is a public place, and they kicking him out for being Black. Oh man, we seen that too many times in America. It ain't nothing new to us. In certain places, it's still sundown. The sundown over here. So basically, Black, we're not welcome nowhere. We're gonna have to begin our own. We're gonna have to have a committee. We're gonna have to start it from the most powerful families, because this is how colonial America was the founding fathers of America was established by elite families from the crown, right? And it was various European groups, not just one type. You had some European groups like the Quakers. Though they had slaves, they didn't treat their slaves any type of way, and they vowed against slavery in America. So not all Europeans came over here, even though they worked together, but there were other Europeans who were fighting for and even initiated the Civil War for us to get free. Even Harriet Tubman had European allies. So not everybody is like this, but when you have the majority of your system is rooted, it just takes away from those who don't believe in this type of stuff, which is very low number and few. All right, so let's go to the next empirical data here. Now, this is from the African Diaspora News Channel, and Chinese folks done created what they call a stress relief doll, which is, when I looked at it, it's in all colors, but majority online, the Black doll is being abused more than any other doll. The Black doll, and it's causing worldwide sentiments here. I know I feel a certain way about it. My feeling mean nothing. I had to be an unbiased researcher. I held my feelings in check, but I had to talk about it. Now let's look at this.
Logged in. We're talking about the Natasha doll. the viral stress relief doll, the black stress relief doll in China that is popular currently and trending because people are using it to relieve their stress by slapping it, punching it, throwing it, running it.
So China, people in some business in China created a doll, a black doll or African dark-skinned doll as a stress relief doll. So Chinese people are now taking that black stress relief doll and hitting it, punishing it, destroying it online, and this is having a disastrous effect. They're trying to produce the next Hitler or something. This having a dangerous effect on the children, as we're going to see it in empirical data real time. This ain't nothing no one's making up. This is real time. Now let's continue here. Look at this. So she saw a clip of a African man where
Did you know a new heating and AC system in the greater Atlanta metro area could cost you just $110 per month?
Ugh.
Kids are calling.
So look, so the doll is known in China. The doll went viral. So the doll is known. And so a black man in China, he's walking and children are calling him the name of the doll that they are punishing online. This is having a serious effect on people and how they consider blacks. Now let's look at this.
Kids, I'll show you. Kids are calling black people when they see them Natasha. I'll give you one example. I'll give you a few actually, but this is Jerry. So they're calling him black. Just read the subtitle. It's in their language. So they're calling him black Natasha. And then he told them, "I'm Jerry, not Natasha."
That's right. He speaks good Chinese. The black man said, "I'm Jerry, I'm not Natasha." So the kids are calling him the stress relief doll that Chinese people created, hence proving that social media is affecting populations in real time and going into the minds. This social media is dangerous. I'm sorry. These platforms are so dangerous. When you have a platform, it should come with great responsibility, man. So they're calling him the name of a stress relief doll and say he's a black Natasha. Let's continue.
And he speaks their language, so it's good he can clarify. And this young man, honestly, I have all the respect in the world for him.
Me too, man.
Because he lives in China and he's constantly, even before this Natasha situation, he's constantly trying to explain to them those that he comes across, because he is a content creator and he live streams and he films himself and posts it. These interactions are captured so many times, and he's constantly trying to explain to them, like, I'm a human being too, and he does it in such a kind tone. Like, I don't know many people that can handle racism the way this guy handles it.
So this black man is walking around China and experiencing superior racism from Chinese children all the way up. Look, here goes the doll. Let's go to this. Let's see this.
It was being treated, how they would market it. It was horrible. It was really, really, really horrible. So what is it going to do for people's minds, even if they don't mean to take it in any other way subconsciously? How is it going to impact them? We were talking about that. Like, that is,
look what they do to the doll.
Like, it's not something that we made up today. It is.
Look how they treat. This is a black doll that they're treating horribly, which is a stress relief doll. So they're throwing the doll, smashing the doll, and as we've seen, it has negative effects on the children, because the children now walks up to blacks calling them the doll. So is it going to get to a point where they're going to treat and mistreat the black man, and that's supposed to be mistreated? This is psychological warfare to the highest order, man.
going to sip in. But the worst part is it is adult, so it's also in a way targeting kids.
All right, China state media response to so China did a media response, and I'm glad she showed this on CCTV 13. Let's review this.
This is Chinese news. They were state media. They were talking about the Natasha doll. Even some parents came to the. You can read the subtitle, by the way, if you want to understand. Or is it like there was this? I want to show you. Yeah, parents talking about how they are concerned and they don't think it's right. Which kudos to them. Kudos to them for wanting to stand up for what is right, because they were saying they are afraid that this is going to impact their kids.
Too late, already had. Duh. Right now, we don't need to see no more. Y'all can go to the sources I leave in a link. I leave in a description, and she showed the same empirical data, primary materials here. Chinese man chased me away and called the police to arrest me because he's black. So, we as a people, we still begging others. These people don't care for us. We still give these people our money. We have no self-respect. That's why they're not going to respect us until we get ourselves together. And it's sadly 2026, man. It's going to be very difficult due to various ideological differences of blacks, in which we have adopted Islamic quasi-religious. Majority of us have adopted quasi-religious Islamic sect ideologies, and a lot of us have adopted ideological Christian Israelites and ideology, and we think that we are, some type of biblical nonsense. Something, we think that we are from the Bible. Even though the Bible is not, real. Those characters of the Bible can't be proven to have existed, even though some of the characters have existed in the Bible. But these are stories, and none of those situations actually can be attested in a real archaeological record. It's just, we're at a state where it's just shameful, and I guess I have to do my job as a historian. When you look at this video first, we go through the historical, and these are just fairly recent ones, like the one in Shanghai. That was in 1960 of us experiencing anti-black sentiment in China. This ain't the only one, and this is 50 years later after the writing. And then you have other peer review data. I can probably make a whole course on YouTube on anti-black racism in China, which I may do. Just showing nothing but peer reviews, at least 10 different peer reviews of the anti-black sentiment in China, so Kadika learners can know that where you are spending your money at. Are you going to these Chinese stores? They don't care for you like that. And I've met many good Chinese people. I met some cool. One of my homeboys was Chinese. He grew up with us in Baltimore. His name is Kung Pao. We call him Pao. We grew up with him. He grew up amongst us, and we didn't do him like that. This is shameful. You know what I mean? And it just is, man. I have nothing else to say, but for knowledge basis and researching basis, know who we're dealing with, know who we're spending our money to. Unify yourself. Get your ideology in order. Right? Your ideology should be separate from your ethnic, which you claim your ethnicity. You got a right to any ethnicity, but I think we should be, I don't know, man. This is disturbing, to say the least. I'm out.